Whether it is a simple story or a complex history, a key element in all types of writing is time. It establishes cause and effect, act and consequence. The Book of Kings is not exempt from the need to relate one event to another in time. The author traces the action of kings and rulers throughout time by recording the beginning, end, and duration of one reign after another. Modern readers naturally want to relate the chronology of kings to the dating systems we use today so that we can relate the events narrated there to each other, and to contemporaneous events in the lands surrounding ancient Israel and Judah, to recover the original context of those events. Kings synchronizes the reigns of the northern and southern kingdoms of the divided monarchy, as well as proving the number of years a king reigned. But there is a significant problem. These numbers and the synchronymies appear to be in constant contradiction with one another. It appears difficult, if not impossible, to create a chronology that accounts for all these numbers and agrees with established chronologies of the ancient Near East. These conflicts have led many to conclude that the Book of Kings cannot be a faithful witness to the history of Israel. If the writer got the numbers wrong, what else did he get wrong? Here is an example of a problem. Often the synchronymy given for the beginning of a reign does not correlate with the total number of years given for that reign. 1 Kings 15 verse 25 says, "The reign of Nadab of Israel begins in the second year of Asa of Judah." 1 Kings 15 verse 28 says, "Nadab died in the third year of Asa, that is, he reigned for 1 year." But 1 Kings 15 verse 25 says he reigned for 2 years. This is one category of conflict. A second category of conflict is concerning the year a king is supposed to have begun his reign. 2 Kings 3 verse 1 says Joram began to reign in Israel in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat of Judah. But 2 Kings 1 verse 17 says he began to reign in the second year of Jehoram the son of Jehoshaphat. The sum of regnal years for Israel and Judah is a third source of discrepancy. The total number of years for the kings of Israel from Jehu through Pekahiah is 114 years and 7 months. For the same period of time in Judah, from Athaliah through Azariah, the total comes to 128 years, a 14-year discrepancy. When we compare the sum of the regnal years for Israel as compared to the same period for Assyria, we find Israel's kings reigned 12 years longer than the Assyrian kings. And Judah's kings reigned longer by 25 years. Since the numbers do not match up, we must conclude that either someone made an error or the numbers mean something different than we suppose. In 1951, Edwin Thiele published The Mysterious Numbers of the Hebrew Kings, in which he presented solutions to the problems already stated. His discoveries and principles used to harmonize the regnal years of Israel and Judah with an absolute chronology are summarized in this video. In the northern kingdom, Israel, the regnal year was calculated from the month of Nisan in the spring, but in Judah, the regnal year began in the month of Tishri in the autumn. Both of these systems overlap the January New Year of modern calendars. It must also be kept in mind that both calendar systems are lunar, rather than the solar calendar used today, that is, each month consisted of exactly 30 days following the phases of the moon. An important consequence of all this is that a regnal year in Israel begins in the spring, and will overlap parts of 2 regnal years in Judah, which begin in the autumn. If a king of Judah came to the throne just before January, his accession year would synchronize with, for example, the third regnal year of a king in Israel. However, if the Judean king came to the throne 6 months later in the following summer, his accession year would synchronize with the 4th year of the Israelite king. A second principle used to resolve numeric conflicts is to understand that the method of calculating the regnal years was different in the 2 kingdoms. Is the first year of a king to include a partial year up to the next new year, or is the first year of a king's reign to be calculated from the following new year's beginning? In the ancient Near East, some countries followed the former method, and others the latter. The former method is called accession year dating, and the partial year is not counted, it could be called year 0. The latter method is called non-accession year dating, and counts any partial year as year 1. This means that nations using the non-accession year dating system are always 1 year ahead of those that use accession year dating. And for every new king, the years increase by 1 in absolute time. For non-accession year dating, one must subtract 1 year for every king, in order to keep in sync with absolute chronology. Judah used the accession year system for Rehoboam through Jehoshaphat, then the non-accession year system was employed from Jehoram to Joash. Beginning with the next ruler, Amaziah, Judah returned to the accession year system, until the destruction of Jerusalem. In Israel, only the non-accession year system was used throughout its history, that is from Jeroboam to Jehoahaz. For example, the total number of official years of reign for the Judean kings of Rehoboam through Jehoshaphat are 79, the total number of regnal years for the same period in Israel, Jeroboam through Ahaziah, is 86. But when we subtract 1 year for each of the 7 kings of Israel because of Israel's use of the non-accession year system, the final sum is 79 years, which agrees with the Judean record. A further source of confusion is how the regnal years are reported. Since each nation had its own method of reporting, accession year or non-accession year, it reported the numbers of the other kingdom according to its own method. Thus, Rehoboam had a 17-year reign according to Judah's accession year recording system, but Israel's non-accession year system reckoned 18 years for Rehoboam. 1 Kings 15 verse 25 says Nadab's rule over Israel began in the 2nd year of Asa of Judah. Since Israel used a non-accession year system, the 2nd year of Asa would be the 1st year according to Judean accession year dating. Depending upon which source the author was using, the Book of the Chronicles of Israel, or the Book of the Chronicles of Judah, the calculation of the regnal years, and the synchronization between 2 kings must take these differences into account. A fourth principle used to resolve regnal year numeric conflicts is to recognize that some reigns overlap, especially in Israel, and some kings were co-regents, especially in Judah. Sometimes these overlappings and co-regencies are mentioned explicitly in the text in a form called dual dating. More often, the overlapping reigns must be deduced and reconstructed. In all, 9 overlapping reigns have been identified, 6 for Judah and 3 for Israel. How is the relative chronology of the Hebrew kings correlated with contemporary historical events? Assyrian king lists record an eclipse, which astronomical calculations determine to have occurred on June 15, 763 BC. This allows us to fix the absolute date of most of the Assyrian kings, and hence the various events of their reigns from their court records. In the 6th year of Shalmaneser III, the Assyrians fought a coalition of Aramean kings, now modern Syria, called the Battle of Karkar in 853 BC, and among the names of the kings listed is Ahab of Israel. This event is not recorded in the Bible. In the 18th year of Shalmaneser III, in 841 BC, Assyrian records show that Shalmaneser received tribute from Jehu, king of Israel. There are 12 years between the Battle of Karkar and the receipt of Jehu's tribute, and also 12 years between the death of Ahab and the ascension of Jehu. This allows for further calculations of absolute dates for many other kings of Israel and Judah. Another synchronization from Assyrian records is the year 701 BC, when Sennacherib of Assyria besieged Jerusalem during the 14th year of Hezekiah's reign. From the Battle of Karkar in 853 BC to Sennacherib's campaign against Hezekiah in 701 BC is a span of 152 years, according to Assyrian chronology. According to the properly calculated years of Israelite and Judean kings from the death of Ahab to the 14th year of Hezekiah, is also 152 years, proving the synchronization and method of reckoning regnal years is correct. The history of biblical studies in the 20th century has shown again and again that major problems of the biblical record have been the result of modern ignorance of the ancient world. The resolution of the apparent conflicts of the chronology of the Book of Kings shows the reliability and trustworthiness of the biblical record to the history of the ancient Near East.